What is up, everybody? Today we are going to be looking at the Auburn Tigers. This was an incredibly intriguing team because a year ago they were 1-6 in one-score games. They ended up finishing the season 5-7. They obviously fired Hugh Freeze. They've now hired Alex Golesh from USF. He had a ton of success there. He's bringing on over a ton of guys through the transfer portal. Auburn also had a huge transfer portal exodus, especially at the skill positions. The NFL came calling for a couple guys. And what's that left? Tons of questions for the defense, but a very, very optimistic offense. We will be covering it all today. So first, let's learn about the new head coach, Alex Golesh. He's obviously coming over from USF, where they were an offensive juggernaut. And that's really what I think Auburn fans hope that he infuses into this team, into this roster, is that ability for them to put up points. Because under Hugh Freeze, the offense was very, very minuscule. One of the other things that I really, really like about Alex Golesh, especially when you compare him to some of the other American coaches that we've either gone over in other videos or that I know we will go over in the future, is that Alex Golesh has been a little bit of everywhere. Obviously started off at Ohio State, where Ohio State is this huge program with a ginormous brand and an unlimited athletic budget. He spent tons of time at places like Illinois. He was at Toledo. So he's really seen all of that college football has to offer, which means he's coming into Auburn with tons of experience. An experience of knowing how to run a program and build a culture, which is what Auburn so desperately is needed since they ended up firing, Gus Malzahn. And what I also do like about him is he's an incredible culture guy. Everywhere he's went, it seems like he's left the place better than he's found it. And obviously, USF did have some shortcomings a year ago. And what I mean by that is that team probably could have and should have made the playoffs. So that's what he needs to not do at the University of Auburn if he wants to have a successful tenure, is to not lose some of those games like he lost a year ago at USF. So the transfer portal is really where everything starts next year at Auburn, because you first have to realize just how much talent they lost. Singleton, Coleman, so many guys on that defense. So they needed to go out and get a bunch of talent. And what Auburn did under Hugh Freeze for years was go and buy the biggest name. You saw it in Jackson Arnold. You saw it with some of the wide receivers that they went and got, some of the secondary pieces that they went and got. And it really never worked. Alex Golesh has a very different approach, which is let's go and get some G6 guys, some prove-it guys. And Washington's one of those guys that's going to have to kind of prove it. Because yes, he was very good at Baylor, but what's he going to look like in the SEC? The linebackers are just more physical. The defensive line is just more physical in the SEC than it is in the Big 12. And then obviously on the defensive side of the ball, they brought in a handful of guys. The premier guy is Wambach from Ole Miss. And what I've heard a lot about the defense in general, and we'll get to it a little bit later on in this video, but they really aren't relying on the guys, and they're kind of doing the Indiana strategy where they just believe so much in their defensive coordinator and so much in their philosophy that the individual players are not as big of a deal on defense. And we've seen that work in the past, like a year ago at Indiana. With that being said, you still absolutely need dudes. But going back to the offense, a lot of transfer pieces, a lot of USF guys. And I've seen a lot of Auburn fans complain about how many G6 guys they have that they're going to be relying on. I don't know necessarily if Auburn a year ago would have beat USF, if I'm being completely honest. I think that the coaching and the talent that they did bring in from USF is so good that it will look better a year ago, especially at the wide receiver position, especially when we talk about the RPO style, how quick and how together and how much chemistry your wide receivers and your quarterbacks need to have in this offense for it to be successful. So let's get to exactly what Auburn's offense and defense we should expect it to look like. On offense, expect them to be much improved. They were really bad a season ago. And at the running back room, I'm still not all that confident, even with the transfer from Baylor, that they're really going to come out here and, have a 1,000-yard rusher backed up by a 500 to 700-yard rusher, and that Auburn's going to just, physically beat you up front. But I don't necessarily think that they need to, because I think a lot of the scheme that they will be running is a lot of runs from the pass, if that makes sense, where it's quick throws outside, it's quick hitches, and then it's the wide receivers that need to get out in space and make plays. Byron Brown's the best quarterback that Auburn's had in some time as well, and I think that absolutely matters. He's the best guy that I think they've had since Bo Nix. I think a decade is a little insane, but at least since Bo Nix. And then when you look to that defense, they lost so much. They have tons of belief in the defensive coordinator right now. Xavier Atkins came back. He is just a dude on defense. And I do like some of the secondary pieces, But for a defense, this is what I always say. You can have tremendous players. They need to come together and play really well together. You know, you can have amazing edges. You can have Dylan Stewart like South Carolina had, and your defense just isn't very good. But I think Auburn's defense will be able to put it together because I have that much faith in the defensive coordinator. So overall, what do we think the record will be? Right now, the win total is sitting at about 6.5. I look at Baylor, Southern Miss, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, Samford, and Mississippi State. I think those should be wins. That would get you to 5 wins. Can you get 2 more? Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee. Those are tough. Those are tough. Florida's another tough game. They play in October. That is one of the toughest stretches in the country. But what I would tell Auburn fans, if you can get to the end of October with 2 losses, it would set up a really fun November. For my prediction right now, what I think the team is going to be, I think they're going to be 6-6, which is just a little bit on the wrong side of their win total. How do they surpass their win total and surpass my expectations? Byron Brown is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. He is top 3 in the SEC type potential, maybe even the best in the SEC type potential. He has to get there. And then the defense has to just be solid. They have to be exactly, honestly, what they were a year ago. If they have the talent and the production that they had a year ago on the defense side of the ball and the offense improves drastically, yeah, we might be talking 9 wins. I still think 10 wins is what this team would need to make the playoffs. I don't see really a world where they get there, but they could definitely get over 6.5 wins. But right now, I got them at 6. If you made it this far in the video, subscribe, leave a like, and go check out some of the other videos that I've made on some of the other SEC teams.